Hello, Mario! In this video, a year of Adobe Connect, I'm going to reflect on my year using Adobe Connect to deliver the National Diploma in Surveying online in real time. Now, it all started when I took a one-year contract to deliver the National Diploma in Surveying. When I got to the job, I found that I was tasked with delivering the program online using Adobe Connect. I did a lot of asking and finding out about it and found there was quite a lot of stuff to be sorted out, things I needed to sort out. But the statement that tended to be my guiding light was once I asked questions, too many questions probably, as is my habit. I was given the statement, just make the bloody thing work. And so I took that on board as my mission statement for the year. So here it is, my video on a year of Adobe Connect. Just make the bloody thing work. So first of all, a little bit of a history. When I arrived, one of the other schools was using Adobe Connect. They were using it in what I would call a one-to-many situation. They had one tutor delivering the material to many students, all with their headphones, webcams and microphones, all coming back to the one. However, the situation I was placed in was the many-to-many. What I was tasked with doing was to deliver my normal classroom teaching online with students in the classroom and students online. And this is what I would call the many-to-many scenario, and all in real time. I think that's most important, that we talk about this being in real time. Now, to do this, I first of all needed to have a webcam that encompassed the whole of the classroom, and also a conference microphone. Now, one of the things with Adobe Connect is that you must use headphones because of the echo cancelling and issues that can occur around the use of laptops and laptop microphones. So first thing we needed to do was in the home classroom was to use the conference mic so that we got around the noise cancelling feedback situations. However, the students out there at a distance still required to wear the headphones and microphones, otherwise we would get terrible feedback issues with the Adobe Connect. Now, we did explore, or there is the possibility of exploring, a situation where we have the similar situation with the conference mic, the big screen TV and the webcam at a distance as well. That's something for the future, and we have in some ways did try that from time to time into a conference room at one of the remote venues, but with not too much success because of the tech input needed at that end. Now, this whole Adobe Connect thing is held together by Moodle. We access Adobe Connect through the Moodle, and that holds it all together. And that was the key to it, is that we needed a Moodle site, and I was always very concerned about having the material there. for the students in case there was a technology breakdown, so that they could always come back to the Moodle site and have material there that would enable them to continue with their studies if the Adobe Connect failed in any way. So it was most important that for each program that I was delivering, that I had a Moodle site established. And the course that I was using is delivered over 3 years and has 18 separate courses. So if we just done roughly 6 or 7 courses in each year of the course, we were delivering year 1 and year 2, so we had sort of 12 different courses. Each course in our instance needed to have a Moodle site to support the information. So the Moodle aspect of it was very important, and it held the whole thing together. Imperative that we have a good Moodle site. So the model that we used was the many-to-many model. Took some time to establish it, to get a conference microphone and a webcam with the big screen TV, so that the students present in the home room that we were delivering it from were seeing what the remote students were seeing. They were seeing that on the big screen. In the situation that we were in, we had the big screen above a whiteboard, and I had the webcam under the big screen, so that the remote students were viewing what was going on in the classroom. That was our basic kit. That's what we started with. There were lots of other things, nice to have things that came on board towards the end of the year, but essentially we just had the webcam, the conference mic, and the big screen TV in a computer lab situation with a Moodle site. So that created some very interesting things, and I've done here looking at the pluses, the minuses, and the interesting aspects of it. One of the guiding things with this, apart from just make the bloody thing work, was to try and be as flexible as possible for students. Now, the Adobe Connect gives a number of flexibilities. The course that we were delivering was delivered to what we call a flexi course, in that our students that we had coming into our room, into the main room, they were working in industry, and they came in once a fortnight for one evening and one day of full-on classroom time. And the concept here was to be flexible, so the remote students were the same. However, there was a number of scenarios that developed. We had some students that were actually travelling quite some distance to be in our room, in our home room that we were delivering from. Now, Adobe Connect enabled them to perhaps, rather than travel over for the evening session, just come over for the day session on the Friday, and they could use the Adobe Connect on the Thursday evening and not miss out on anything. We also had situations where some guys had childcare issues and needed to be at home. They could join our classroom from home, whereas they were usually in the classroom. And some of our remote situations, we had guys working together. So very flexible delivery. I've also should mention that there's the issue of scheduled time and unscheduled time. So not only is Adobe Connect available during scheduled class time, but you can have a one-on-one session with a student at any time, and this proved to be very useful, particularly for students who were working. They could make contact with the tutor after hours outside their work time, so it didn't interfere with their work, and some were very appreciative of this. Pioneering. This hadn't really been done before. Some people were a little skeptical that it could be done at all, but it was given it a crack and the opportunity to take risks and to try things out, and that was a real plus. The freedom to pretty much do do and try a lot of things was sort of there. There was nobody to really say that you were doing it wrong because it hadn't been done before. As it turned out, I found that the students were actually very supportive, and that giving them some say in what went on and things like that bore out, good stuff came from that. That they provided advice, they were quite helpful, particularly when I had forgot to do something or turn something on, or things weren't showing up quite as they should on the screens and things like that. Because they had familiarity with the program, that was great. They were really good, and I really encourage that you give them the opportunity to be hosts and presenters. Let them work through the software. They'll find out things. You'll learn from them. They'll learn from you. It's really part of the model in my view. Encouraging colleagues was good. Some colleagues were very encouraging, interested in what I was doing, would perhaps be helpful, come up with ideas, could make a few things happen. That was really great. I would say that with the program that we were delivering, we had the assessment books. We were using assessment books for the program, and these had been pre-printed. They had a reasonable amount of input into them. They obviously had some flaws and things that were changing, but it did make it very, very good that the students had some idea as to what assessment was involved, what they were going to have to do, and we could talk about that. And the thing is that the assessment booklets were also part of another program where the students, or some of the students, had been going it alone on their own. And certainly what we were providing with the Moodle site, the real-time online tuition and classroom time, was better than going it alone as to what they had. So they really appreciated what was going on and what they'd done. Now, some of the minuses. Well, apart from the assessment booklets, there was no resources, so we had to minimal resources. We had to start from scratch with resources. A lot of the resources were perhaps not designed for this type of delivery, and so there was quite a lot of input put into getting resources out there, quite often minutes or hours or the night before, or just-in-time teaching was involved. This was a little bit of a risky venture. Nobody really knew, quite how it would go, and so that sort of was as good and bad. But then there was a lot of what if. What if it doesn't? If this doesn't happen? What if that happens? What if the technology fails? And that drove a lot of the things that I did. One of the big things that I did was to go to the flip teaching model, produce screencasts and videos and things like that, which I'll talk about later. And that was all on the what if. I didn't want to have, my biggest fear was having students sitting in front of a screen that wasn't performing, or there was no Adobe Connect. But that was a big fear going in, and it always is a problem, but we seem to get around it. Minuses, we had no Moodle site set up. We had to set up a Moodle site for up to 12 programs, and that had its problems, making sure that we had the students in the site, that they were referenced to the site, that the sites were up and running, that the sites were running properly, that the students could get in, that the students could see, that there was just a lot of work there. So that was a bit of a minus, but a plus in the sense that I developed a system of using Moodle sites, that I had all my material on the Moodle site. I did have it all backed up onto a hard drive, which I had close to me at all times, but generally my delivery was from the Moodle site, which I found for me worked quite well. Not everyone's cup of tea. We had minimal technology. We were not well supported technologically wise. Basically had the webcam and the microphone. None of these were set up permanently. They had to be set up each time, which involved coming into the room up to half an hour before a lesson and getting it all set up, getting it on board, and also the similar amount of time at the end, taking it all down, carting it. The rooms that were used were quite some way away. Would drive my car from the car park to the rooms and have a lot of the gear in my car so that it was available. And there was no model to follow. While pioneering was a plus, it can also be a minus. There was no real model to follow as to how we could go about this. So we just had to pretty much suck it and see. So there's some of the minus aspects there. Interesting. Well, we were using multimedia, and it was getting into the multimedia. That was great. Video, sound, all of these things were interesting, and a lot of reading. There's a lot of research on these things, but actually getting down to tin tacks and getting them done. Quite early in the piece, I came across the concept of flip teaching. Flip teaching, essentially, in a nutshell, is where rather than in the typical model, the teacher teaches, and during the teaching time puts the material in front of the students and goes through it, and then sends them away to do their homework or the assessment. In the flip teaching, they flip that around the other way, and so all of the teaching is done by way of video or material on the Moodle site, and the students come to class to do the assessment. They're pre-primed with the material they need to know by watching videos, doing little associated tasks at home and things. So I started from scratch with this. Essentially, I started off with screencasting and using Smooth Draw, as I'm using here now. So I'd put up a set of notes. Equally, these notes could be PowerPoint. I just find Smooth Draw suits me better. It's easier and quite versatile. So essentially, what I would do was draw up my notes, which is the Smooth Draw that you'll see here, and then I would create a screencast or a video as I'm doing here now, and that would then be uploaded. The video would be uploaded to YouTube, and the link to YouTube would then be put on the Moodle site, so as well as the associated notes. So what this would mean is that the students could first of all watch the video if they wanted to, or they had the notes there that they could just read through the notes. Some preferred just to read through the notes, some preferred to look at the videos, some didn't do any, but there you go. And it was very interesting. The majority of the videos, a lot of the videos, as you can see, this video here is coming up 18 minutes. It's probably going to be quite a longish video, but as you'll probably notice yourself that you struggle to watch that amount. What this was true of the students. The average time that students watch the videos was possibly 3 minutes, which tells us a little bit about how things go. Some students just found the notes fine. The options, there's 3 options here for using this material. One is you can ask the students to watch the video. 2, they can read the notes. 3, I can come into the classroom with the notes and talk to the notes live online in the classroom if I so wish. I personally think it's quite slick, or not slick, but I think the students, by watching the video, get a better product than I would in the classroom. I have the opportunity to edit the videos and what have you. So just something that seemed to work okay. So flip teaching and the video, the opportunity to look at new technologies, and I really want to go a lot further with this. With the videos, I'd love to have a document associated with each video that the students would have to answer or complete in their own time, and then upload so that I could view and see that and get an idea and get some feedback on them before they came to class to do the various assessments and what have you. Interesting that we're online, what we can do online, and that sometimes this actual use of the technology, finding out new things, that might be the most important teaching thing that we do for our students. The actual content of the class or the surveying content may well become dated very quickly, but the skills that they learn in understanding the technology, how to do this sort of thing, use the new technologies online and in the cloud, they may be of more value to them than the actual content that we're delivering in our courses. So the law of unintended consequences, our students may well learn stuff that we hadn't actually intended teaching them, which is a bit of a bonus. Okay, so that's now some hints, tips and observations that I picked up during the year. First of all, arrive early to set up, get everything going. Even when you arrive early to set up and get everything going, you can find that things fail. If you're delivering at night, there's not much tech support around, Adobe Connect goes down. What are you going to do? Well, you've got to use everything that's available. Cell phones, email, all channels should be open in the when you're delivering online. You should be available to text your students, email your students, ring them up, or whatever. All of these courses of action are there. All were used. In the room I was in was a bit of a dungeon, so you actually had to walk out of the room and phone them up. Why aren't you here? What's happened? That sort of thing. You've got to not rely on any particular thing and be prepared for all situations. You definitely need to prep the students beforehand, have a meeting with them, get the Adobe Connect all set up, get them confident with it so they know how to do it and what to do it, and there's none of those fears there. Even when you do that, the first time coming into the classroom can be a bit interesting for them, so it's important that you give them as much preparation time on a one-to-one basis, preferably. Scheduled time and unscheduled time. Yeah, you've got scheduled classroom time, and as I spoken earlier, unscheduled classroom time. So obviously get them prepped beforehand on unscheduled time. And if you think someone needs help or you want to talk to someone, this is our online students rather than the local ones who can come in and see you. Unscheduled time. Organise an Adobe Connect meeting at a time suitable to them, preferably. Students and equipment. I don't know, students never seem to have a lot of money, and the money they do have is spent on things that possibly as a tutor you might not think would have a high priority. I found that the students always seem to have problems with their headphones and webcams and whatever. My solution to that problem would be to supply them with headphones and webcams so that you got all your students using fairly similar material, which makes it easier from your end to explain to them what to do and how to drive it and stuff like that. So be aware that students will not spend money unnecessarily on equipment and tech stuff. They'd rather spend it on other things, concerts and refreshments and social things. Equity was quite an interesting issue. When I first started delivering on Adobe Connect, I would first of all have the microphone in there. So in some cases I would be delivering a whole class sort of type situation, and then for other times we would, when the class was just doing work or whatever, we'd just have the microphone on. What I found is that if someone came online and we were talking to the online students, my whole attention tended to be directed towards them, and quite often sometimes forgot about the students that were actually in the room with me. So it's very important that you be aware of that you're not sort of giving too much priority to the online stuff. You've got to be aware of the equity. You have got guys there with you as well, and they can help you, allow them to get in on the situation as well, and involve them all. It's very, very difficult sometimes to just to get a nice balance between the online and the people that are there with you. So just something to be aware of. The 3 green lights for the Adobe Connect, that's a catchphrase that I think is a very good one. 3 green lights, just like in the weightlifting. I don't know if you watch the the weightlifting, but the 3 green lights means it's a good thing. So make sure you've got the 3 green lights. I've been through the process. There's a process that you can go through. Make sure you've got your webcam on, make sure you've got your microphones on, do your setup wizard and all that sort of thing. Get everything up and going, and the students should have 3 green lights. The way the students use Adobe Connect can be quite interesting. Bandwidth can be a bit of a problem for them. So some of them don't have the webcam on, they just listen. They just don't have the mic on, they just listen to what's going on, and maybe use the chat. They sometimes use the chat a lot and not the microphone. So they come to their own decisions as to what they use. You can, I guess, ask and that, but I just found that generally they did what they thought best suited them, which was quite good. But you just need to be aware of it, that sometimes there's not too many webcams on, but they are listening in. And with the conference mic, they can just talk, and after a while you get to recognise the voices of the different students and who's who, although it can tell you on the screen. Give the students as many opportunities as you can to use the technology to host or to show you documents or things like that. They get familiar with the software doing that, and that's quite helpful for you. They can advise you where you're going right and wrong, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I really advise that. Now I've got here some asterisk things here that I call the online toolbox. So we've got the document camera, which is something that came towards the end that can be used if you're demonstrating an object or that. I've had great difficulty, say with a theodolite or something. If I was sort of pointing out things on it, it was quite hard for the online guys to see it. The document camera may solve some of those problems. It's something that it's nice to have available, but you might not be using it every time. The wireless keyboard, that would be great for sending you can deliver from anywhere around the room. That's the wireless keyboard and touchpad. That's something that became available towards the end of the year. Needs a little bit of practice with that touchpad and keyboard just to get yourself up to speed and things like that, but enables you to move all around the room and to keep in the view of things in terms of the webcam and what have you. The Wacom tablet, that's what I produced this sort of material here on, and again it's wireless. It can enable you to walk around the room and do presentations and stuff like that. Has quite a thing, but again it's something that you might not use all the time, or you might use in just specific circumstances. The document camera has been put up as something that you can sort of spin up and flick around the room and use as another camera. Personally, I would like to do a little bit of work with a webcam on a tripod, just normally a camera tripod. I think that could be quite useful. With the right webcam, it could be pointed at the whiteboard, and so that you could film the tutor working on the whiteboard and what have you. So that's an option that I'm putting up. I haven't quite used, but as I say, these are all part of what I call the online toolbox. They're nice to have available, and you just want to be aware, and then maybe use them as you wish at your leisure. I've talked about cell phones keeping all the channels open. Just a little bit of thing there about YouTube and Adobe. YouTube, playing a YouTube video and then putting that on the Adobe Connect doesn't seem to work. That is partly why I've put links to all the YouTube videos I use on the Moodle sites, so that the remote students can just click on the video if they were to be watched in class, or you can send the link down through the Adobe Connect chat. But there seems to be a bit of a conflict with YouTube and Adobe Connect, and so that's the workaround for that. Screencasting, which is what I've done now, I've extolled the virtues of that. I quite like the idea. I believe it gives quite a lot of flexibility in the three-way sort of situation with the notes, the video, and you can talk to the notes live if you so wish. So yeah, that's there. And I just want to go on to my last and final screen here, which is called looking ahead. What advice would what advice would I give to myself moving into the next year? What were the things that I thought I would be doing next? First of all, in the Moodle, I'd be looking to going for an improved Moodle site. Just the way you put the site together, use a lot more of the functionality, some of the assessment tools. I think I'll probably be using about 10% of the Moodle tools, basically just using it as somewhere to store resources and videos and things like that. So I'd be looking to try and use more of the assessment, as I said, the assessment tools, the grading tools, and that sort of thing. So yeah, having a look there. Assessment. The key to good assessment is that it's easy to mark. So I would, this year I inundated myself with marking. I see it as only my own fault. We need to, spend some time on the assessment and making it easy to mark. So I would be looking at making all of the assessment all digital. I would look at it being submitted digitally, available digitally, read digitally. One of the things that I would look at is formatting it and formatting the assessment into some sort of standard format. I would actually be working on having each student having a document that possibly a blank document which I would give them at the start, and then they would fill in the pages of that document following some sort of standard procedures, so that when we got to the end of the course we could look at the document and all the assessment would be present there in the document, being done as we went along. And so is one of the things that I would be looking at, and it would be very easy to mark. Nothing too complex in terms of deep analytical looking at marking and things like that. I would also be looking at strategies where the students perhaps find the question or find the answer and make the question fit the answer and that sort of thing. Peer reviewing of things, self-checking, all of those things, just to make the assessment easy to mark. Technology. I've been having a look very closely at the use of mobile devices for including mobile devices. I think the student is all going mobile with their tablets and their phones and that sort of thing. So I'd be looking at there, and a lot of the digital information I'd be looking for it to be in the cloud, or that type of thing. So that it's all there. One of the things that I'm looking at is flashcards, which will appear on the mobile phone. So I could make a flashcard with a name on one side, a definition on the other. These would be available to the students on their phone to view at bits of downtime when they had, to give them an idea of words and things that we're going to be using in a particular topic, or to help them with memorizing key concepts. Students, and I've got this last here. It's probably not quite right. It should be perhaps the first thing, but as I said earlier, I'd be looking at supplying the gear. Definitely headphone and webcam as part of the thing. I think we need to realise that, particularly to our online students, that our online students use less overhead, so they're not as expensive to run as our students that come into our large buildings and use all their things. And we should be doing everything we possibly can so that our online students have the same service, the same things available to them at the same cost as the students that come in. And so that's why I don't have any qualms about the supply of the gear, because for our students that come into the campus, we're supplying them huge amounts of gear in the way of buildings, cafes, things like that. Just a headset and a webcam, I don't think it's too much to supply to our online students who don't cost us as much. I would be focusing on teaching the technology. I think the outcomes from teaching the technology are difficult to ascertain, and they're quite often overlooked, that we expect the students to know this, but we do need to spend some of our time just teaching the technology, teaching them what to do, how to do it, even some of the simplest things, using Excel spreadsheets, how to print to PDF, how to scan stuff properly, how to flip things around and present things in nice ways. Now these are all skills that are valuable skills, and they're transferable skills into a number of areas. So I would be, for the students' sake, and our own sake really, teaching the technology. And finally, the last thing about the whole thing is flexibility. Be as flexible as possibly can by using the Adobe Connect, by using cell phones, mobile, tablets, Moodle, everything like that. Flexibility is the key, because if we don't do it, someone else will, and that someone else might not be another Polytech. They might be somewhere, and they might not necessarily be in New Zealand. It could be anywhere in the world. So we've got to be as flexible as we possibly can to cater for our students, to make sure that our students are getting what they need to move ahead and to get the qualifications that they need easily. And they've got to be happy and, be satisfied clients, because if they're happy and satisfied, then they'll tell others, and we will be happy and satisfied, because we've got a continuing supply of students. So there you go. I know it's taken some 36 minutes, almost 40 minutes, so you may want to watch it in little bites and things like that, but that's just my reflections and overview of my year of using Adobe Connect. And we made the bloody thing work.